I believe in the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. I believe in the God of Israel. I believe in one God. I believe that Christ is manifest in the flesh as one God, like the old Israel painted lambs put on the doorpost. I believe that Christ is my true lamb, and his blood has been painted upon me. I believe the same God of Israel protect me from all evils and sickness of this world, and I'll do my best to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. I believe that my Messiah died for my sins. I believe that he raised from the dead, and I believe that he will come again to judge the whole house of Israel. I believe that my God has created the heavens, the earth, and everything upon it. I believe in one God who is holy and righteous. I believe that the God of Israel is my Father. There is only one God. There is only one God of Israel. And I'll give my whole soul and body and spirit to the one God of Israel. For he is righteous, and he is my Father. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, Selah, and Selah. Amen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are in person and those of you who are online, to come and hang out with myself, Elder Andel. I'll be the host today on AIJ TV, and I am joined by the famous Tamar Ski, my daughter. And today is one of those days that we want to tackle the topic of us as a people. If we do what we are supposed to do, our birthright was to be above all nations. And we also want to explore the unique greatness of a nation that is under God. To do that, I don't know if I'm going to do too much of an intro. I think sometimes we do an intro and then we get stuck because we have like 10 scriptures we didn't get to. So I want to open up, Tamar, with 2 Chronicles 33.
Okay.
We'll go to 33.
Let's go there.
And as I go through, and Tamar and I go through the scriptures, we're going to expand, and we're going to see exactly why it's important for us to actually do the things that we should be doing, because that is really going to bring about our uniqueness as a nation. And oftentimes, the large majority of our people, even though they were born Israel, they lived in the land Israel, even though they saw the Red Sea parting and they saw the mountain that was quaking, even though they were fed quails and manna, and even though they were in the wilderness and their feet never got sore and they were eaten like kings and like queens in a wilderness, there's always this appetite of our people, a strong appetite, strong will to go the opposite direction from what the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has said to us. And, you know, we have explored that as a council. We've explored that for years. Like, what is that? What is that thing that keeps our fathers wanting to go and serve another God? What is that? Why can't the people come together and just be in the land that was given to us and be at peace with each other, sing some songs, eat some grapes and some figs, and chill? But you would find that over and over and over and over again, they always went the opposite way. So we're going to talk about Manasseh in our first scripture. And Manasseh, if I can say this, Tamar, he was the son of, and I say son of because I want you online to fill in the blanks, and I want you who are looking at me in the audience to fill in the blanks. Manasseh was the son of Joseph. Correct. The Manasseh in 2 Chronicles was the son of Joseph. Incorrect. Hezekiah. Thank you, Elder Elaine. Anyone online or here, was Hezekiah a king that walked not in the footsteps of David his father? Or was Hezekiah a king that walked according to David his father in serving the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? We got a quiet.
I heard a he walked over here.
You got. I got to hear you. Yeah. So they're asking me to repeat the question. So did Hezekiah did right in the sight of God, or did Hezekiah did bad in the sight of God? I love the answers I get back because it ends with a tone that's almost a question mark at the end, right? He did right. Right? He did right. He did right in the sight of the Lord. You got to think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Hezekiah, he moved with his heart for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, cleansed the land of Israel. He made sure that the priests were in order like his father David had done. He made sure that the feasting days were done according to what was laid down by Moses. He ensured that the people did the right things. He persecuted sorcerers and people who were into witchcraft. He removed altars in high places and broke down the groves. And here comes his son Manasseh. And then some of you would be like, well, if the boy, Danielle, if the boy saw his dad who was king in all the glory and all the array, doing all these things for the God of Israel, surely he would walk according to his father. You'd read for, yeah, absolutely.
Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem, but did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, like unto the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel.
So when I look at that, Tamar, that question comes to me all the time. Why would Manasseh, after dad passes on, pick up to undo everything his dad stood for? There is this compelling narrative and this compelling spirit that's out there that is so tantalizing for the children of Israel that it wins more than we actually win. It does. It wins more than we actually win. It takes so many of our people into that whole philosophy. Even though, like I said, they're born in the land, they're given Israel names, they're circumcised on the 8th day. Dad is a king, and not just a king, a renowned king of Israel, who did all these things in repairing the things that should be for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Here he is, when he begins to reign, doing more evil than all his fathers before him. It tells you that this path, Tamar, is not an easy path. It tells you that the magnet that is the world is ultra strong, and is always pulling the children of Israel to it. So you know why I say that, right? Because, and you know, I told you we're going to turn this into a mini podcast. Yep. And since I came into the building today, everyone's been asking me, how does Tamar feel about her feast? How does Tamar feel now? How did Tamar like her feast? How did Tamar do this? So let's talk about that a little bit, right? You're now seeing that someone like Manasseh, who grew up with a king of Israel who was doing great, and he came into power and he did the exact opposite of his father. Do you think it's important, going through what you just went through, in us upholding our culture, our laws, our statutes, and our commandments?
Do I think
that's the question, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think 100% it's important, because I think it's easy to get off the straight and narrow path because what's out there is very appealing. It's very pretty. It will draw you in. And also, a lot of the things are like subliminal messages, so it doesn't seem like you're following rules or you're following religion. When you come to the nation, we have, our specific holidays, or our specific holy days, and we have our feast days, and we have our rules and our laws, statutes, commandments. So everything is kind of in black and white, whereas the world, everything just seems like it's a party. Everything just seems chill. Everything just seems like, oh, it's just a fun outing. But when you look at the subliminal messages, then you're like, oh no, these are practices of holy days. These are, when you look in the intricate details, the fine print, then you realize you're actually upholding religious practices that you don't think that you're upholding, because people are not really into religion these days. People just want to relax and love everybody. But everybody that you see outside is practicing religion for the other side. So I feel like it's very, very, very important, especially in this day and age, to hold true as the Jacobites, the children of slavery, to what our power comes from, to the source, because that will ultimately just bless our path and bless everything that we put our mind to, and we will reap the rewards of actually holding true. Because outside you see that no one's reaping the rewards, especially the Jacobites. We are at the lowest of lows. We are not the head. We are definitely the tail outside in this world. And it doesn't seem like anyone's trying to get out. It seems like everybody's kind of like in a hamster cycle of just repeating, but wanting to do better, but not knowing how, but doing the same practices and kind of in the same hamster loop. But we know as Israelites where our source, where our power comes from. It comes from the source, the true and living God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. We understand where our blessings come from. We understand basically how to not be in this rat race and in this hamster cycle. So in this day and age, I think more than ever, when you see the state of the world, it is so important to keep strong to who we are and to stay on the path of truth, because that will benefit us in the end.
All right. Yeah. So, I saw a T-shirt. This guy, he's a big rapper dude. Yeah. And he had a T-shirt with a pyramid on it and the all-seeing eye in the middle. Nice. And the wording, because you talked about the hamster wheel, the wording says, to get out, you must get in, right? And in the middle, the graphic is a big pyramid with the all-seeing eye. And then Elder Freddie had shared a video with me and a few of the guys with LeBron James. And he's doing this kind of a shaman ritual before he starts his game. He throws up a 666. He blows in his hands. He goes up there. He does some signage. Yeah. Every game, every time before he does a game, he does this ritual. Thing, yeah. And if you look at that ritual, to your point, it's again in that same source of Satanism. Yeah. It's rooted in Satanism. Every single music artist that's number one right now, whether they're R&B, whether they're hip hop, every single athlete that's number one, every single Hollywood artist that's number one, being the children of Jacob, they're all in that same Satanism type of operation. Every single one of them. And if you don't believe it, just wait till the months and years go by, because then you'll start hearing them being outed on news and TVs and who is into all kinds of weird stuff. But this is the state of the tribes. So to your point, sometimes, we used to look at these things and think 400 years, at the close of 400 years, our people will get a little bit more smarter. You know what I mean, Elder Milne? They'll get a little bit more smarter, meaning they'll understand who they are, knowledge of self, and they'll come back in. But it seems like it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And this is not new, is what we're trying to say on this, well, let's call it our AIJTV podcast series with Tamar and me. Because if you look at a guy like Manasseh, he had all the tools necessary to keep him on the straight and narrow. You would think a king's son. And not just a king's son, but a great king who served the God of Israel. He would have had all the examples, all the tools. But what was so powerful to bring Manasseh to do more evil than all his fathers did, being the son of Hezekiah? So let's read verse 3.
Verse 3. For he built again the high places which Hezekiah his father had broken down, and he reared up altars for Baalim, and made groves, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and serve them.
So Hezekiah, poor Hezekiah, all his work in breaking down the altars of Baal, breaking down the groves, kicking out the false prophets, kicking out the soothsayers, kicking out those with familiar spirits, reestablishing the order that David had set down. Manasseh, his son, said, you know what? I'm building back the altars of Baalim. I'm building back the groves. I am undoing everything my dad did. Why? Why do you think so?
I couldn't tell you. I just feel like, once again, it's the attractiveness and just being stiff-necked. Israel has a long history of just being stiff-necked and continuing to go back, so I couldn't tell you why Manasseh.
You don't think it's weird? Like, honestly, you see your dad being a king, do all of these things. The minute your dad passes and you're now in command, you undo
everything,
and you bring back all the groves and the altars of Baal and all these things that you're doing. We have a major problem that needs to be looked into, or else we also can fall in this same path. Officer Doreen?
No, I just thought it was interesting. It's not on, is it?
It's on.
It is. That it says he began to reign at the age of 12. And for 55 years. And to your point, his father did all these amazing things. At what point, from 12 years old, you had your advisors and all of that you let the world entice you, and you just go down this downslope, this decline, to rearing up altars to Baal? Like, I'm just thinking, as a child, it says you raise up the child rooted in the right way. It should go that way.
Yeah.
But no, this didn't happen.
It didn't, and this is what I'm trying to say. Like that engine is bigger than, it's always been there. Like, the majority of the children of Israel, we talked about it this morning. I think it was Elder Freddie who said that he believes the ones who actually kept the law, statutes, and commandments were probably the ones closest to Moses. And the others, living wherever they lived, just lived like common breed fowls. They just lived. And it's hard to imagine, but that must be true. Because all Israel went astray. All Israel. And every now and then when I sit here, I always talk to young people in the audience and online, because it's really up to you guys. It's like in corporate we talk about the Gen Zers or the Zoomers, not the Boomers, the Zoomers. And the Zoomers are the ones who are going to have an impact, the most impact as we go forward in our generation. And you Zoomers in the congregation and online, it really is up to you. It really, really is up to you to resist all of that you see outside and be proud of who you are and represent you, your God, and your nation. And that's going to be tough because the odds are always against us. Elder Sophie?
Well, you just said what I was going to be saying in regards to how I look at it. It's, sorry, whoever has the Android phones, but it's like the Android phones and the Apple. Apple believes that they can't allow certain things on their platform because they got to keep, certain things out and, attacks and all that. Anything, viruses, they have to do all that. Whereas the Android is open. So we're in the nation, and I find that it's because nobody see they don't see their legacy. Like, it's not there. Like, the parents could see it, the parents could be the example, but I do believe that you have to believe it for yourself, because the world, even for us, is pretty. Like, there's no rules. Do whatever you like, and even in this time that we live in now, it's becoming more like dirtier things. It's anything, everyone used to do things behind the closed doors before, but nowadays it's just out in the open and people's just picking it up. So according, to the scripture that you guys just read, and now, like, for me too, I really don't know what there is, like, what anyone could do unless the God of Israel comes in and does the same thing that he did in Egypt. I mean, who's going to be listening right now? The world is just, as they say, everybody's oyster. So, don't know.
No, good points, right? The I think what should be on the floor is how do we solve this? And can we? I mean, from day number one, and that's why it's very, very difficult to do what we are doing. It's very, very difficult. To do evil, Tamar, is easy.
Oh, yeah.
That's light lifting.
It is.
It's light lifting to do bad and break the rules. Light lifting, guys. So all you bad guys out there, that's the easy route. It's easy, quick money is easy. That's easy, light work. That's light work. But to follow laws, statutes, and commandments is a certain discipline. It takes a certain person to do that. And that is probably why the road is that narrow. And that's probably why there's only a few names written in the book of life. Because to get to that book of life and have your name in there is such a privilege. That's what we are aspiring to do. And it's not for every single person on earth to just acquire that and be there. It does take a lot of discipline and a lot of work. Now, verse 4, I'll read that. Verse 4 says, and he also built in the house of the Lord. So he didn't build another house, but in the house where God says, my name shall be there forever, that Hezekiah, his father, made sure that they kept it sanctified. Manasseh, his son, he built altars in the house of the Lord, wherefore the Lord has said, in Jerusalem shall my name be forever. And he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. And he caused his children, Hezekiah's grandchildren, to pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom. Also he observed times and used enchantments and used witchcraft and dealt with the familiar spirit and with wizards. And he wrought much evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. You couldn't get more descriptive than that. Hezekiah's son. It is sometimes, Tamar, it's almost mysterious. Is it only the children of Jacob, do you guys think, goes through this? Like if it was a different nation and they were worshiping at the monkey temple. You guys have seen this. I'm not making it up. So whether they worship at the monkey temple or the temple of rats, you've seen that also, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm seeing nods. You think they get lured out of that so easy? You think they break patterns? You think they step outside? I'm seeing Elder Freddie saying no, you don't. You know, so here I am, I'm watching an Instagram clip, and no disrespect to people who worship rats or monkeys. It's just we, the children of Israel, can't do that. But here I am looking on Instagram, and I'm seeing some guys sitting on the floor with their legs crossed, right? And they're cooking, I think they're rolling out some bread. And I'm seeing rats jumping in their lap, rats jumping up, rats going and eating some of the flour, rats coming out. So I thought this was just a rat infestation that's happening, and I couldn't understand why they looked so comfortable. Then I saw the caption that this was actually the temple of rats, and it's an honor if the rats themselves get attracted to what you're cooking and they eat from it. That is where you're blessed by the gods. If the rats came and ate out of your hands or nibbled on you or nibbled in what you're kneading and cooking, it is an honor if the rats do that. So I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I'll probably go to the nation one day and say, who wants to go on a trip to the temple of rats and see who may want to get converted. But here's what I'm thinking, like, they get these kind of things and they stay with it. They're committed. The rats are crawling on them, eating from them, eating their food with them. They're committed. God comes down in a cloud. Mountains shake and swell. Trumpets are heard. The voice is shaking. You know he is a living God. And he tells you to eat proper. He gives you laws, statutes, and commandments so righteous more than any other nation. You don't have to bow down to a rat. You don't have to bow down to a monkey. You know, the temple is smelling nice with frankincense and myrrh. You've got everything covered, overlaid with gold. You've got people singing and players an instrument. You got spices. You got holy unleavened bread. But they decided to make a calf. They decided to make a calf when they came through the Red Sea and being in the wilderness. They decided to make a calf and say, hey, Ezekiel, this is the God that brought us up out of Egypt. This right here that we just made. What is that? And why today, every single one of the State of the Tribes, and when I say the State of the Tribes to those listening, I'm talking about the children of Jacob that have made it in terms of prosperity or in terms of influence, celebrity status. Why are they all worshiping Lucifer? Why not one could say, you know what? We gotta end this. We gotta end this. It starts with me. I'm ending this. Why not one of them can do that? And then you start to think, then what is our purpose? And that's why tomorrow we're talking about this very important topic. What is our purpose? When we keep feasts, like you just went through on Saturday, and I told you you call it the Viking speech.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, when you do and we do what we do, and I do this, is we punch the beard off of Santa. There's a kid who has a clip on Instagram. This is, I'm going to punch Santa's beard off. And I loved it. Yeah. We punch Santa's beard right off when we do what we are supposed to do here. You have to understand that. We give a black eye to all those, whether they be physical or whether they be principalities and powers and spiritual wicked people in very high places. We give them a black eye when we decide to do what we're supposed to do. How do you think Babylon is going to fall? How do you think the great whore is going to fall? You think we're going to be like, what's his name, Grandmaster Jay? Was it Grandmaster Jay?
Grandmaster Jay.
And he assembled, remember back in the time with Brianna? Is it Brianna? Yeah, Free Brianna.
An army, a black army.
And they were all in black with all their big rifle and machine guns. And he was going to free and make a statement that no more marching and no more singing. We're about business. We're going to make a change. Now he's doing time in jail. Yeah, he's doing time in jail. You know, I used to listen to him. He used to call it by his mental, his Monday mentals. And I used to go on Instagram Live to his Monday mentals. Tamar got into it after a while because she thought he was entertaining. And I would be on there with like 3,000 people on his live. And he'll be like, you know, God spoke to me. I'm like the Moses of today. I'm going to free my people. Y'all know what we're going to do, man. We're going to go down there. We're going to march and we're mean business. This is how you do business. And he assembled like 500 people with guns and ammo. And one day I think they went out and one of the guys, he didn't have his gun on safety and he shot his foot and his shells flew and shot a couple more of the guys. And then why he is in jail is he actually put his red laser beam on a police officer. And now he's doing time. And then he put a GoFundMe out there to get money for his legal fees. And you see, come on, man. Come on, guys. Help Grandmaster Jay. What's going on? I thought we were all peeps. And he raised like $100. And they're like, come on, man. And he raised a couple more $100. But now he's in jail.
Yeah,
what were you thinking? That this was the solution to a spiritual problem? You are applying a physical approach to a spiritual problem. Let's keep reading.
Verse 6.
Yeah.
And he caused his children to pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom. Also he observed times and used enchantments and used witchcraft and dealt with familiar spirit and with wizards. He wrought much evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. When I also read this verse, and it spoke about how he passed his children through the fire. I thought that was like the lowest of the lowest. Like that in itself is probably an abomination, because we know the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the children, is his prized possession. Even he can put his mark on a child. You never know what that child is going to do in life. You never know what him or her could be used for. That could be a vessel that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to use for his works. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob even makes his mark on a child from even in the loins. He can make his mark on a child. So that's why, we as Israelites, we make sure our body is pure. When we have children, there's a time that we cut their hair. There's a time that we have offering ups. There's a time that, we hold feasts for the children. There's a time that we give them vinegar and withhold vinegar. Everything is set so that this child has a good standing in the world, so that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob can use this child for whatever his purpose is. So from that young age, to actually pass that child through the fire, it kind of dooms him from the very beginning, dooms him or her from the very beginning, that it kind of just ruins the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, kind of just ruins his work, ruins his power, ruins his light, ruins anything the child could be, anything the child may stand for, anything the child could be used for. And I just feel like that was the lowest of the lowest. I was thinking no one could probably come back from that. I don't even understand how the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob can even forgive someone for doing that. But we'll see as we continue in verse 7. But
you make a good point.
That really stood out to me.
You make a good point. Our strength as a nation has always been the children. And Pharaoh knew that. So he made a decree to kill all the
babies,
the boy children, kill them all. Same thing when you read in the New Testament, Herod and those guys, they basically said, hey, we hear that a Messiah is going to be born. Do me a favor and go out there and kill all the boy children that are born at a certain time. Like that is always the playbook that the enemy uses. Faith without works is
dead.
And so is the body without a. So the spirit moves the body. So when you see this playbook in action, where it's always the children being targeted, you know it's not coming from the flesh. You know it's coming from the prince of power who ruleth this world. That's his playbook. If the children of Jacob, if I can stop them from growing, if I can just stop the growth. And that's why when we were all born, a lot of us born in outside of North America, and you know, the first thing they did was christen you, and they put that cross on your forehead. And then the first probably meat you ate was ground pork. Maybe your porridge even had pigtail in it. Like they made sure that your first introduction to the world was going to be blemished by another god. So you will not be able to rise to your occasion. So that is why I'm saying to you, all of you, take what we do here very, very personal and serious. Go against the tide. You know, I've heard people, and I'm going to say this to you, I've heard it, and it does trouble me. I've heard it in times past, Tamar, that brethren would say to me, you know, Priest Andel, yeah, you know what, I know my cycle's coming up, but I don't think I'm going to have a feast, you know? It's not this year, you know what I mean? Not in right mind, I don't know. And, you know, you kind of look and say, well, number one, I'll talk a little bit about this. You don't need $50,000 to hold a feast. Those of you online, I'm saying this to you too. You don't need $50,000 to hold a feast. When you do understand what a feast really is, you will enjoy the journey of keeping a feast. The journey. Even if it's 5 of us, and I bring my macaroni pie for you, Shernette brings her porridge, Chris brings some doubles or some pylori, right? Elder Sophie brings some soup. Elder Elvis brings his sorrow. We sit down. We sing some songs to our God. We cry. We reminisce. And we do. That used to be what our elder taught us in the early days. It's all about community. It's all about community. When we hold a feast, it's not that we want to be, and Tamar says she's going to be vacationing and stuff like that. And every day she talks about all the spots she's going to.
Yep.
Why didn't you do your feast in Bali? Because you talk about Bali a lot. Why didn't you do your feast there? I'm serious.
It never crossed my mind to have my feast in Bali. Never came up.
It never came up?
Never came up.
If it was offered to you, would you have done it there?
No.
Why?
I would not have. Because once we spoke about where I was going to have my feast, I was kind of sold. Like I said at my feast, we have the altar at 202 Bentworth. So that is the amplifier to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob's ear. So if I could keep my feast right beside the altar and in order to give thanks and to give back and to thank the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob for everything that he's done in my life, and to just have merriment amongst my brethren, and to have the vibes, and to even have brethren setting up and cooking for your feast, all those blessings go into the feast and go into your next cycles. So if I'm going to put the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob at the forefront of my life, and the feast is to give back and to give thanks and to be amongst brethren and to bless even yourself for the next cycles to come, I feel like there's no greater honor than to have it alongside the altar.
And the reason I bring it up is because, being a council member, we hear, some of the creative things that people want to do with their feast. But then it turns away from being cultural and spiritual to being physical and extravagant and exotic, right? And those are the things that we need to understand here, and those are online, is let's don't move away from the core, because the more we start to move away bit by bit from the core, I fear we would end up like in the days of Josiah, where he finds the law in the walls and is like, oh man, we haven't done this in a long time, and it just slips away. And so I am begging brethren to pray for understanding, because understanding is a gift that comes from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If you want to have your feast in a villa in Bali, knock yourself out. But you want to do it the way that should be cultural and effective, there's nothing better, richer, and more in line with who we are when you have the privilege, I'm going to use that, of doing it where the altar is based. Even if you're across the street from the altar, it's even better than being in Bali, right? So these are the things that you got to hear from me and Tamar, and you'll hear it from other council members, because there are a lot of people that get really creative. I think Ezekiel's one of those guys, right? Mm-hmm. He want to go to Turks and Caicos and have his feast on a beach,
on the beach,
right? And it sounds good. Everyone brethren hears it, and they're like, oh man, that sounds really good. I'm coming down with you. I'm going to be there. Yeah. We're going to book some time. He's going to have it at Turks and Caicos. Nothing about here. Nothing about, listen, if you go into I'm going to talk to you guys pretty plainly. When you go into your home, do you feel comfortable? I don't hear.
I'm seeing head nods.
Online, when you go into your own house, do you feel comfortable?
Oh, yes.
If you were praying in a parking lot garage at your workplace versus praying at home, where do you feel more comfortable?
Home.
Why?
Because you can be free, it's relaxed,
You're free, you're relaxed. What else?
it's
Secure, comfortable, familiar. What else?
your spirit can be at environment.
Spirit at ease.
Talk to me, Elder Tammy.
Yeah, your home environment is conducive to what you are.
That's what I'm looking for. You being an Israelite living there, you've created an established environment. So even when you pray at home, you probably feel as if your prayer is moving faster up than if you're in a parking lot somewhere. Because your friends that you can't see is probably where you dwell. Because you've made it that way. You go out now and you're in Thailand on a beach. You gotta really stretch to get some friends there. But the friends are where the altar is by default. So you get in there and you start to sing some songs and you start to break bread. Your friends are already here. This is home court. You get home court advantage. I'm telling you this. And this should not be rocket science. But we're placed in a position where we need to revisit these kind of lessons and these topics because it's breaking away at the seams. Elder Freddie and I, more Elder Freddie, he says we're no longer going to be breaking bread. So he says, you know, we're going to probably stop breaking bread if this continues. And what I mean by that, breaking bread, and this is why we do these lessons, it's all part of what we're talking about. Because when you remove the core, you could end up tripping and slipping and going far away. The breaking bread that you would see a priest do is not because you're hungry and we're trying to fill you up. The breaking bread is very spiritual. That bread is not supposed to be, sometimes we break bread, Elder Tammy, and we put the bread down for 2 minutes and everyone trips, falls. They're ripping the bread. The bread falls in the ground. People are tramping over the bread. So Elder Freddie says, you know what? If this continues, we're not going to break bread anymore. Because people have forgotten even what a breaking of bread means. Some people say, hey, I'm not going to come into you because you give small pieces of bread. I go to him, he's giving me a bigger piece. It's not about filling your stomach. The bread should be treated with, we don't even dash that bread. No. Guys, I'm talking like when anyone breaks bread, we don't just break. You don't even dash that bread. You treat it with respect. It's the exercise of breaking the bread and what it means spiritually versus you getting full off of bread being broken. We need to behave ourselves and know these things and not have a stampede. You got to see it. It has to chill. It's breaking away from what these things truly mean and meant. Breaking of bread is it's family. It is the act of spiritual family. It's the act. It's not about getting full. It's not about you ripping it and it goes on the ground. People stomp all over it. The next one pushes the next one, grabs the bread, and it's just everyone's grabbing. When I see someone just do like this and grab the bread, honestly, my heart sinks in me like, oh, you don't treat that bread like that. You don't do that. The things that we do, you got to have a certain amount of respect for it. And these are the things that have been stitching away. It's been just stitching away, and we need to remember why we do what we do. Do you know what I'm saying, Tamar?
What you're saying.
You know, and even I'll say this to some of you online or who is new, because I remember Passover, we had some people here, and they took bread and they threw it in the garbage. Ignorant. They're ignorant, so we're okay with that. But those of you who are here, you know, we treat, even if it's not bread that is broken, you treat bread with respect. The bread in your house, the bread, wherever you get bread. You use water and you soak the bread before you dispose of it. You don't just cast your bread out. You cast your bread, like the scripture says, upon waters, that it may return unto you. It's all for our benefit. These are the kind of things that we take we have a glass of water when we're teaching. I had a young man ask me that, and he was genuine. Like, why? I said, well, you're not going to go up here with a double-double, or you're not going to go up here with porridge in your cup, right? You're going to go up here when we do spiritual things as Israelites. Water is the first firmament. It is where all the biggest miracles are done. The Spirit moves well with water. It is, and teaching and doing the things that we do is an act of a spiritual exercise. So it gives you what you need to do the job that you're doing. I come up here with I don't know, ginger ale, I may be stuttering and stumbling all over the place, right? So these are the kind of elementary things in terms of our culture and practices that if we enable ourselves with it, we would start to get back on the right track. And they're elementary, but I think we haven't discussed them in a long, long time. Am I right, Tamara, or no?
You're right. You're right.
What am I right about, if you don't mind me asking?
We haven't spoke about water
Yeah.
being here. We haven't spoke about all these elementary practices, the significance of bread, washing your hands. Before,
Yeah, there you go. Like washing your hands. Yeah. Good point. Right? Elder Freddie is a wash hands police guy, right? So sometimes we're in service, he even if we're in discussion, I could see him eyeing people
to wash hands.
And he tracks people, right? You're talking to him, but he's tracking. Okay, good. And if someone is saying, "Hey, you gotta wash your hands," okay? But it's
Wash
funny,
hands, please.
but it's vital. These are vital things in our growth. I saw in a Move chat, Tamar, that someone made a post, nothing crazy, but it was dealing with mixed fabrics, and mixed fabrics, could impact your spiritual energy, and some fabrics can enhance your spiritual energy.
That's a new one.
And I'm a simple guy. You want to enhance your spiritual energy. If you're a baptized brethren, you come with your gown on, your cord on, and you come to services and you pray and you just be at services. That's how you enhance your spiritual energy. I don't know about wool and linen and all that stuff. You want to enhance your spiritual energy. You're a baptized brethren. You come. You pray. You put your face on the ground. You pray to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You come to new moons. You come to Sabbaths. You come to Saturday services. You put your time in. That will grow your spiritual energy. Not sure about fabrics, to be honest with you. All right? What verse are we on?
Verse 7. Oh.
What would you say to the brethren that is not at home base? And
About what?
when you said you put
Gotcha.
Well, they still
So
have
I
services.
think your question is, I'm speaking to baptized brethren here who can come here for new moon, who can
Put on
come
their
here for
gown.
Sabbath, put on their gown and cord and do what they got to do. The branches also keep new moons and Sabbaths. They do. So if you are local to a branch, go out to your branch and keep those dates. Those individuals that are not by a branch, in those days, you do what Freddie said. You wash your hands, your face, and you wear your whites, and you fall on the ground, you pray. You make it the best at your own home, right? So these are the things that we did during the pandemic when we were out for, 2 years or so. All of us couldn't be in our gowns and be at the temple, but we made do by keeping the new moons and the Sabbaths and the holy days and going into our whites and praying and reading Psalms and singing. Is the same thing I would say for anyone that's not local to a branch. But the gist of what Tamar and I are talking about, if we're talking about above all nations, the above all nations piece is only if we can get this right. It's only if we can get this right. And I mean that. And getting this right is important, not for the masses, it's important for the few. It's very, very important that we don't become secular, because that secular engine is always there, and it's taken 95% of our people have been always in a secular engine. It's only like 5% that's never bowed the knee or trying not to bow the knee. But 95% always get caught up in living life. You know, what verse are we at?
7.
All right,
Want me
go
to
ahead.
continue?
Yeah.
And he set a carved image, the idol which he had made in the house of God, of which God had said to David and to Solomon his son, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen before all the tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever. Neither will I any more remove the foot of Israel from out of the land which I have appointed for your fathers, so that they will take heed to do all that I have commanded them, according to the whole law and the statutes and the ordinances by the hand of Moses. So Manasseh made Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to err and to do worse than the heathen, whom the Lord had destroyed before the children of Israel. And the Lord spake to Manasseh and to his people,
So verse 9 was pretty strong.
Okay.
So verse 9 says what? So Manasseh made Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem to err. And listen to this, Andrew. And to do worse than the heathen, whom the Lord had destroyed before the children of Israel. Not only was he Hezekiah's son, but he made Israel to do worse than the heathen. How does that happen? How? And how do we, Hilaire, prevent that? It's really talking to the generation that is coming up. The Hoseas that are looking at me right in my eyes, right? It's talking to that generation. Like, the world is very attractive, guys. Even when we controlled our own land and didn't have so much outside influence, you see that the large majority of us stepped out of the way. Now we are in Egypt, the new Egypt, spiritual Egypt. Next door to you, right in front of your face, is temptation. It is tough times, Hosea. I'm not going to lie to you. It's tough. But the more you deep root in this nation and you do what you're supposed to do, you gather up that shield, that force field that you got to have to keep fighting and doing what you need to do. It is very attractive. We have seen it. A lot of our the generation before you, Hosea, the large majority of them are not here. They are all absorbed into that same engine that we're talking about. It's very attractive, very, very attractive. Only a few make it. But I'm hopeful that the young ones that are growing up will really hold up our flag and be proud. I remember in the early days when saris and cloth was being introduced. I remember even Tomarski here had to get warmed up to saris and cloth wrapping. But now you can't pull her away from that. You know what I mean? Now you can't pull her away from that. It's like, what are you wearing for your feast? It's not a debate anymore. She's going out there with her mom, and they're looking at nice cloth and tapestry. And it's no longer hey, let me convince you on not looking like you're going to a club to come to your feast, but let me, she's already out there with her mom auditioning and trying out different, I don't know, is it sari? I don't even know what you call it. Saris, langas, cloth
caftans,
stuff. Yeah, right? Yeah. They're already doing this. And not doing it because, now she's no longer like, my mom and dad wants me to wear this, oh my God. It's my stuff looks great, Dad. My stuff looks great. You know, you kind of want not just those who are in Toronto branch to have that. You know, I think I could speak on behalf of my council members. We kind of want this kind of culture to resonate in all the branches. When all the branches are having feasts, be cultural. You know, don't make it look like if no one knew you were having a feast and just saw your videos or your pictures, let them not assume that you're at a club. Let them know that you are actually at an Israelite feast. You know, let them know you're at an Israelite feast. The only thing I didn't hear from on Tamar's feast was our belly dancer type playlist. Remember we had some belly. What happened? Chris dropped the ball on that one. I said I don't want to hear no. I don't even know what rappers you guys are. Cardi B's and Megan Stallion and all those guys. I don't want to hear that at Tamar's feast. I want to hear when we are sitting and we're eating, I want to hear cultural things, Israelite music or some music that gives a cultural vibes. I'm not doing that. I'm not letting my brethren come here to celebrate the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we're bumping our heads to Megan Thee Stallion, right? We're not doing that. And these are the things that we need to not just be like, yeah, I agree, but Karen, we need to each one teach one.
Put it into practice.
We need each one teach one. You got to be strong in what we do. Each one teach one. This is what we do. This is what a feast should be. This is what we should be doing. This is what we should be celebrating. This is why we're doing what we're doing. You know, like this is how you do it. And if we all each one teach one, then I wouldn't have a fear that when the Zoomers come to power, that they're going to break down everything Elder and the council had built and rear up groves.
Bring in the groves.
And altars of Baalim. Oh, okay. Samson's looking at me like, he's like, well, I'm going to be a soothsayer. Okay. I don't care what you say. He's got that soothsayer look right in his face. Like, I'm going to be a soothsayer. I don't care what you say, man. Like, this is important, guys. We need to do it. And every year, you know, you look back at your life and you think, how blessed are we? Even though we may be 5 people. Don't worry about numbers. I'm telling you this right now. Do not ever measure us based on numbers. Do not ever come to me or Elder Freddie and say, well, have you seen those other guys? They got like 10,000 people marching on the streets. Who cares? Who cares if they got 100,000 marching on the streets? Who cares if they got 1 million? Don't ever measure this nation based on physical numbers. I'm telling you that right now. And if you start to do that, I'm going to say to you, you don't understand who we are. You have no idea who we are. If you start to measure us and measure us on a success metrics based on the amount of people that we have, I don't really care. I don't care if we are the very least of the people on the earth. The Bible says that. For thou art the fewest. It's always been there. And we will always be the fewest. Trust me. But we are more. We are so much more. I don't know. I think I'm going to skip this guy now. I don't know if we can make it to the end with this guy. You think so?
Yeah, why not?
All right, let's continue. Let's go.
Okay. 10. And the Lord spake to Manasseh and to his people, but they would not hearken. Wherefore the Lord brought upon them the captains of the host of the king of Assyria, which took Manasseh among the thorns, and bound him with fetters, and carried him to Babylon. I find it even crazy in verse 10 that it's still saying the Lord spake to Manasseh and to his people, but they would not hearken. So even through passing the babies through the fire, even through doing all the abominations and doing worse than the heathen and bringing in all the groves and worshiping Baal and worshiping the sun and worshiping the moon and just doing all satanic worshiping, witchcraft, that the Lord is still trying to get his people back. The Lord is still trying to talk to Manasseh. The Lord is still trying to talk to his people, and they would not hearken unto his voice. Like, this is the King of all kings, Lord of all lords, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, creator of heaven and earth. And he's trying to get in contact with us and get us to follow the path of truth, and we're just brushing him off. Like, it is such a privilege. it's even crazy to think that little old us, like you said, the fewest, we've always been the fewest. But the King of all kings, Lord of all lords, is trying to call us back to be his people and still wanting to love us and give blessings to us, even after doing worse than the heathen, even after ruining the lives of the children and passing them to the fire and giving glory to other gods for everything the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has given us. He still has a mercy for that. So there's always a choice. There's always a choice.
That's a very good point. Do you think, with Manasseh specifically, do you think he is given a chance because of Hezekiah, his dad?
That's a good possibility.
Because Hezekiah
Yeah.
was God's boy. I mean, he was God's boy. Do you think that's the little margin of mercy is because his
100%. I think
dad?
there's definitely a percentage of that. But even without Manasseh, like
Yeah.
this story, the same framework
Yeah.
has been here for the children of Israel time and time
Yeah.
again. When we left Egypt, when we did everything. Like this story has repeated a million times, that it's always the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob being, come back unto me, worship me again. So of course this is a good percentage, is because he got the blessings of his father and the mercy has passed down from his father. But the God of Israel loves his people through and through. So I think regardless,
Yeah.
he's merciful, and his mercy does endure forever.
Amen, sister. Amen.
To that too.
Yeah.
If it's the same Hezekiah, 'cause remember he got 15 years added onto his life, and the God of Israel was merciful unto him too. So I guess it's, as you said, it's going from generation to generation.
Well, I think, to your point, I think we are here because of the promise and the covenant he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I think if he did not make that covenant, may God have mercy on us. To your point, we broke everything every time.
Yeah, time and time again.
In every generation. No, honestly. So it's
Every generation.
it's like there was that talk track that's out there that because we were disobedient and we were bad as a people, there was a need for Muhammad to come to the world. Okay? And we smile at that. Like you just smile. I like that smile. So we smile at that doctrine that there was a need for Muhammad to come because the children of Israel basically turned their back on God. We are the most rebellious. In fact, I remember Elder saying some time ago that someone said that why you're so proud of being a children of Israel or something like that. They were the ones who did everything bad, and they're the ones who even crucified Jesus, right? Like we own that.
Yeah.
We never go and say that's not us. We own that, but we could also tell you why we have paid so dearly is because of that. But to your point, wow, God is God, and he sits above all gods. But yet, he has not once said, I'm going to get me another people and remove Israel 100% permanently out of my sight. The only time he went to get another people was to make Israel jealous. They were tools of jealousy. It wasn't because he has an everlasting love for them. It was, I'm going to make you jealous. But he wants us to be who we're supposed to be. And I don't know how much I can say this to the young folks coming up, how blessed you truly are. Like how blessed you are. We talked about Ezekiel this morning, that his name Ezekiel. Man, if I was Ezekiel, I'll walk into every room and I'll be like, as soon as they push your hand out, my name's Ezekiel, how are you? I won't even wait till my name's Ezekiel, how are you? Hey, yeah. Hey, guys, I'm Ezekiel. That name demands some respect, right? Like my name's Gideon. You understand? It's different. My name's Gideon. My name's Lenaroy. My name's Leonard, Uncle Leonard. It's just not the same. It's just not the same. It doesn't carry the same, you know. My name is Issachar. My name's Chris. My name's Chris C. Prasad. Oh, you know, you guys have a blessing that I don't know if you're going to take on your birthright. I don't know what the future holds for you. Many of us have cast away our birthright. Many of us cast it away. For what? Like, and that's the next thing. For what? For what? What's really out there that you've cast away your birthright for?
A good time.
A good time.
A good time.
Wow.
Yeah.
For pulse and stew peas. Sure enough says some stew peas. I like that version better. I like the stew peas version better. Esau gave away his birthright for some stew peas. Colin, go ahead, my man. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. You remember the lesson this morning? The spirit and the prince, right?
Yep.
And let him do what he was doing. So for Israelites who are influenced by that spirit, because I guess that's what Manasseh was. He had that spirit from the other guy. Do you know of anybody, any other Israelite in the Bible that overcome that spirit and start serving the God of Israel?
All right, Colin's really trying to give me a hard time here, but he's whispering.
What
No.
Israelite in the Bible do you know has overcome
Maybe not
that
100 in
spirit?
us. All right, let's try it again. All right, let's try it again. So you remember we talked about the spirit this morning,
Yeah.
right? Because the spirit was in the prince, right? That making
Sure.
do all that he was doing,
Yep.
right? So I'm looking at the same guy that you're talking about, Minister. He had that same spirit in him, right?
I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so. So Colin's question is: we read in Ezekiel this morning about the prince of Tyrus, and the prince of Tyrus was being compared to Lucifer. But when you understand that the body is the body, but the body alone is dead, and the spirit quickeneth the flesh, you know what the scripture was talking about. There's Lucifer, the spirit, that was influencing the man who was the prince of Tyrus. Manasseh wasn't a vessel like the prince of Tyrus, but the world influence is under Lucifer, right? So yes, Manasseh and all of our fathers are indirectly influenced by what he has set up, 100%. But Manasseh wasn't the embodiment
No.
of Lucifer.
No, but we're talking about the spirit because remember you said the body can't move without the spirit.
Yes.
Right? So whatever he's doing is not of him, like the man himself. It must be a spirit that make him doing the things that he's doing, right?
100%.
So I'm just thinking that is that spirit from the other side.
Okay.
You understand what I'm
I
saying?
understand what you're saying now.
Right.
I understand.
So if that is the and if that is the case, where he's influenced by the other side spirit, make him doing all of those stuff, because spirit make him do it. When you get that spirit, has anybody ever really come back
Made it back.
to right? To
All right.
serve God?
You know what? So we have the answer for him, right? Okay. So number one, based on what Colin has said, when you read Romans 9, it talks about the adoption. Okay? So we have our own spirit. Always remember that. You have your own spirit. But if you do the things that you're supposed to do as an Israelite, if you do what you're supposed to do, the promise is you will get the glory, the covenant. You will have the
Giving of the
adoption. You will be the lawgivers,
Service of
right?
God.
You will do the services of
Promises.
what, Tamar?
Okay.
The services, right? You would have all of those things. The adoption is the spirit that the God of Israel put, let's say, beside you to help you to do godly things, things of the God of Israel. We throw away that by a lot of things that we do voluntarily and by a lot of things that was done to us. And that makes a gateway for something else to stand beside us, to influence the actions that we do. And many of our fathers were influenced by those things. Many of them. Now, your question is, has anyone ever made it back to the path of righteousness when they're in that situation? So let's continue reading.
I'll go from verse 11.
This is a great setup. I love how you set it up for us. To just boom.
Wherefore the Lord brought upon them the captains of the host of the king of Assyria, which took Manasseh among the thorns, and bound him with fetters, and carried him to Babylon. And when he was in affliction, he besought the Lord his God, and humbled himself greatly before the God of his fathers. I'll reread verse 12.
Yeah, let's do it again.
And when he was in affliction, he besought the Lord his God, and humbled himself greatly before the God of his fathers. And he prayed unto him, and he was entreated of him, and heard his supplication, and brought him again to Jerusalem into his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that the Lord he was God.
Did you know that was coming, Colin? Did you know that was coming? That was a great setup. I love how you set it up for us. So, yeah, go ahead, Officer Doreen.
You know what? Elder Sophie and I are having this sideways conversation because when, Colin, you were asking your question, the first thing we thought of was the man with the two sons. And we're thinking, you know, there's the good son at home and the one that just wanted to go out. Yeah. But then he besought him. He was amongst the pigs, feeding the pigs and everything. What am I doing here? I'm from a great home, a home of the kings with good spirit and everything. And he humbled himself, besought himself, and went right back home to his father where he got raiment and gold and everything. And well, let's not talk about the other son, but just stay on him. He humbled himself. So, but this is a better setup. I think
no,
so.
He set it up perfectly. Elder Freddie.
I'm just sitting there because Colin is tapping my shoulder.
Nice.
But I have to preface this by saying that we do have, as Israelites, we do have a blight we can get. But just based off of the sheer numbers that you see around you, and that you know who are with you, it just goes to show you that there's not very many. There's not very many.
Yeah.
So it's not really a lot. And we only got like 66 books in the Bible.
No, yeah. Good, no, great point. Great point. Yeah. Yeah. Continue reading. It gets better. Okay. I love how Colin really teed this up for us.
Actually, I'll do 13 again.
Yes.
And prayed unto him, and he was entreated of him, and heard his supplication, and brought him again to Jerusalem into his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that the Lord he was God. Now after this he built a wall without the city of David, and the west side of Gihon, in the valley even to the entering in at the fish gate, and compassed about Ophel, and raised it up a very great height, and put captains of war in all the fenced cities of Judah.
Listen to this, Colin, verse 15.
And he took away the strange gods and the idol out of the house of the Lord, and all the altars that he had built in the mount of the house of the Lord and in Jerusalem, and cast them out of the city. And he repaired the altar of the Lord, and sacrificed thereon peace offerings and thank offerings, and commanded Judah to serve the Lord God of Israel.
Amen and amen. So there is hope. There is always hope, even as we talk to the lost sheep of the house of Israel that are out there. People that say, you know what, I wish I knew this when I was 3 years old. I'm now 55. Oh my God, what could I do? I've lived the life of this and that. There is hope. If you believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, if you pray to him earnestly, confess your sins and seek him, and seek to keep his laws, statutes, and commandments, he will embrace you and have you as his own. It is a great story. They all don't end in those happy endings, obviously. This one is fairly unique, to be honest. Could be, there's many reasons why these things happen, but Manasseh did, when he got into Babylon, realize that all the little voodoo, Shango, all the throwing of bones and all witchcraft and all the women with familiar spirits just wasn't it. Maybe my dad Hezekiah was really, he knew what he knew. Like, why didn't I just follow my dad? Like, why did I have to wait till this happened to me to know what my dad was doing was right? It's a sad story, but you know, like people always say, you got to get your own experience.
100%.
But sometimes you don't need that kind of experience
True.
if there's others before you to tell you, don't do it. You know, and that's kind of my generation. My generation, we went through getting mud thrown at us. We went through Christianity and other things like that. We have been there. We have seen it. We have looked at the devil in his face. We have felt the breath of the devil in our face. And we're telling you those places aren't good for us. And all we do here, this nation, is try to make sure that our young ones are going to grow up and they're gonna represent the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For those of you who are new and joining us for the first time today, thank you for joining us. And I didn't stress a lot on the wording. I know Samson's girlfriend's here. Hello. When you're coming in the door, you smiled, and I whispered on the mic. They're probably thinking, well, what am I doing? But I'm like, I don't know who that girl is, Tamar. And I'm like, oh, the mic is on. So, and then I said, oh yeah, Samson's girlfriend. What you would see there in the scripture is a lot of he prayed to his God, his God, his God. There's never a general statement of he prayed to God. He worshiped God. It's a family affair. We're Israelites. It's a family affair. He went back to Jerusalem. He rebuilt the house of his God, right? Other nations have their God. That's why it says he did worse than the heathen that was round about him. What do the heathens do? They got their holidays, their rituals, their gods. They do. But we are supposed to worship our God. And that's where Manasseh went wrong, is that he followed the gods of the other people around him. And that got him punished, like we are today, who are the ancestors of, or descendants, of those that were in the belly of slave ships. We were in the belly of slave ships because we also started to worship the gods of the strangers that are round about us. And we left off from our God, and because of that, he sent us into captivity. And that is the story. It's not something I'm making up. It's something you can find out yourself, and you can read it. Elder Sophie?
First, I have a comment, and then a question. So the comment is just from the story that we just read. And you could say Israel's story. We always find God when we're in a bad situation, like when we're afflicted, like when times is good, nobody's thinking about God. But even for us, when it's bad, all of a sudden we find the time to pray. You find the time to come to service. You find the time to do, especially when it's close to your feast coming up, you find the time to make sure you're seen. Who knows why, but it's always like that. So not sure if that's going to change, but it's always when we're really down that we get closer, we try to get closer to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Second thing is question. This is more for Tamar. You could answer it too, but it's more for the young people. Because we are trying to keep the young people in the culture. We teach them about the culture. So what do you think going away, doesn't matter to school, to just going away to live or for school, do you think that influences the longevity in this nation? It's better if you stay close to home, not just you, I'm just generalizing, but saying you. Do you think it influences the longevity of young people in the nation? If they live closer or if they go away? Doesn't matter if it's school or home. What do you think?
I feel like it really depends on the person. I believe that can 100% play a factor, because going away you're on your own. You might not have your community to keep you on the right track. You might not have your community for everyday advice, or to be like, okay, it's Sabbath, maybe we shouldn't. Reminder not to eat this today. Reminder not to go out too late. Reminder to come home before the sun sets and to do this and to do that. It's 100% easier when you're plugged into your community and when your community's down the street, or you're able to come to Saturday morning and afternoon every single week. So I think 100% it plays a factor, but in order to stray or not to stray, it really does depend on the person, because you can have, like Manasseh, you can have a community, you can have your dad that's, like you said, God's boy, and have your community basically instilling everything in you and nitpicking and keeping you in this sheltered bubble and keeping you on the straight and narrow path, and then you can go and do worse than the heathen without having to go away or do anything. Just by being you, you can decide to get off the path of truth. So I think 100% it goes with the person. There's not really a certain recipe to follow, a certain set of rules, a procedure, because we see that time and time again. Like, you're gonna do what you wanna do at the end of the day. All we can do is try as Israelites to do our best and to continue to fill up our tank and to come in and be connected to the source. All we can do is try and make sure that we have a good community around us to, hey, if you see me falling off, pull me back in. If you see me doing wrong, help me do right. We can only try our best because there's no recipe, but I think being closer definitely is going to play a factor in just help and longevity and making good decisions, because it's always great to have your community near rather than being by yourself. But at the end of the day, like I said, there's no set recipe. So I think it really just comes down to the person themselves.
All right. Let's go to Hebrews 12. And when we talk about above all nations, there's a title, the unique greatness of a nation under God. Everything that was given to us, everything was for our benefit. The new moons, the Sabbaths, our feasting days, everything that was given for the service of man, for us, the Israelite, to benefit us. And if we should do these things, Hebrews 12 talks about what that next phase looks like. In Hebrews 12 from verse 18, I'll read it from there. For you, and again, for those that are first time here, it doesn't say for the world, for everyone in the universe, for everyone on different planets. It says for you, and you always have to know the person who is speaking and to whom they're speaking to. And every verse, every chapter, every book was written for and by the children of Israel. You need to know that. For when it says, for you are not come unto the mount that might be touched, and that burned with fire, nor unto blackness and darkness and tempest. Those who lived in the days of Moses came onto that mount. They came to that physical mountain. But you, now we're talking in the later days, you are not come unto the mount that might be touched, and that burned with fire, nor unto blackness and darkness and tempest, and the sound of a trumpet and the voice of words, which voice they that heard entreated that the word should not be spoken to them anymore, because they were terrified. For they could not endure that which was commanded, and if so much as a beast touch the mountain, it shall be stoned or thrust through with a dart. And so terrible was the sight that Moses said, I exceedingly fear and quake. Doesn't sound, and be honest with me, guys, doesn't sound like there is love flowing in the air and everyone's floating with the halo over their heads with this. It sounds terrifying. It's kind of not the tone they set with you at Sunday school, am I right? At Sunday school, everything was rainbows and lilies and flowers and hearts. But you're hearing that Moses exceedingly feared and quaked when he went before God who was at the mountain, because the mountain shook and trembled, and they heard the voice of trumpets and the voice of many waters. And the people, the children of Israel says, Moses, you go. We prefer to go back to our tents because we be all dead men. We be all dead men. And so terrible was the sight that Moses said, I exceedingly fear and quake. But you, again, not the world. Let's look at this personal again. But you are come unto Mount Zion and unto the city of the living God, the heavenly, not physical, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels. This is the path that you get to, you and I, if we are diligent. If we are diligent in keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments, if we are diligent in punching the beard off of Santa, if we're diligent in giving a black eye to all those principalities and powers that has kept us down for so long, and we take pride in the God that we serve, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we do all that we can in the life that he's giving us, because no man knoweth tomorrow, and we do everything we can with the life we have now to serve him, to keep his new moons, to keep his Sabbaths, to keep his holy days, to do these things, then we have faith that we will also be able to be there to gain access to that Mount Zion, unto the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels, to the general assembly of the church of, listen to how that sounds though. No, guys, listen to how that sounds. It's not low-level business. I am part of the holy Mount Zion, the city of the living God. Around me, innumerable company of angels. I am from the church of the firstborn. You say that, even the earth shake under the enemy. Even the earth shake under the enemy. When you embrace it like that, this is not a joke. This is not a joke. And I'm going to read it again. But you are come unto Mount Zion and unto the city of the living God. For those that are new, our God is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. For those of you who are new, how do you identify it? Everything that we do as Israelites is during the time of light. From spring starts our holy days. This is just nature I'm talking about. Just the natural order of how God set things up, that your eyes can see without having to get into Bible. Spring, where the light starts to become greater than the darkness. And when the cold starts to decrease and the warmer and more tropical or more just warmer weather starts to go through the earth. The time when things become alive and you see your tree, especially in Canada, that has been shredded down to just a branch. You start seeing the new leaves, new greens coming out, where the birds who have disappeared from you and I because they're smarter than you and I and they've gone to places a little bit more warmer than here, they come back chirping, and they come into your little trees that's near your house and start to build nests for their young ones. All of our activity spiritually, our holy days, start from there. The last of the things that God commanded us, which is the Feast of Tabernacles, ends right before they kick in their Halloween and Thanksgiving and so on. And their New Year is in the darkest of all days. In the midnight hour is where they ring the bell that this is a new year. So you see, when we say that our God is the God of the living, you get to understand now what the God of the dead is up to. You get to see it for yourself. But you are come unto Mount Zion, unto the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels, to the general assembly and church of the firstborn, which are written in heaven, and to God, the judge of all, and to the spirits of just men made perfect, and to Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of sprinkling that speaketh better things than of Abel. And we can get into that. Those of you who are new, you know what we're talking about. Jesus the Christ. And you know Christ is the mediator. You should know that. You know the hierarchy. Or let me not say hierarchy, because some of you may get sensitive to it. But there's the woman, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of the man is Christ. Don't get mad at me for that. That's written doctrine. And Christ is the mediator. Christ is the head of the church. Christ is the head of the church. Who else would you want to be the head of the church? Aren't you super pumped that Christ is the head of our church?
Amen.
Christ says, he says, I beheld Satan like lightning fall from heaven. I beheld it. He fell cast down like lightning from heaven. And it wasn't Christ fighting Lucifer in the war in heaven. That's beneath him. It was Michael and his angels versus Lucifer and his angels. And Michael and his angels prevailed. It's not God versus Lucifer. God was out shopping that day. Leave it to Michael and his angels to deal with Lucifer and his angels. But Christ said to those that were with him, the 70 that he chose, and he says, I want you 70 to go out 2 by 2. Take no script with you. And when you go to a house, Hilaire, you say, peace be unto this house. If they bid you peace and take you in, you say, the kingdom of God has come nigh unto you. And you teach them. If they don't, you dust your feet off, and you say, even the dust of this city shall cleave unto you. Burn them. Then they came back and they said, oh, Rabbi, we went out there like you commanded us, and nothing could stop. Nothing, and I'm paraphrasing, but nothing could come against us. We cast out every demon there was. He says, well, you celebrate because the spirits are in subjection to you? You celebrate because of that? Yeah. He says, but good, but glory ye that your names are written in heaven. That's paramount.
Amen.
But you will do greater things than that. This is the Christ talking to them. So when you hear the Christ is actually the one who is looking after this church, you're in good hands. There's nothing more powerful than that. Nothing more powerful than Christ. Nothing. Nothing. For through him was the worlds created. And by him was nothing that was made. Everything you saw that was made was him. And he sits at the right hand. He doesn't sit across the street. He doesn't sit in another town. He sits at the right hand of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So he's got God's heirs all day, every day. All day, every day. And he's the one that is responsible for this church. And when I say church, those of you who are new, I'm not talking about a building. When I say church, I'm not talking about a building. The Israelite people who serve God in spirit and in truth, that's the church.
Amen.
Wherefore we receiving, hold
24?
on, 24. And Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, to the blood of sprinkling that speaketh better things than of Abel, see that you refuse not him that speaketh. For if they escaped not who refused him that spake on earth, much more shall not we escape if we turn away from him that speaketh from heaven. What does that mean? It means that what we do here is a shadow of heavenly things. I'm gonna pause there for a second. What we do here, ladies and gentlemen, is a shadow of heavenly things. Moses remembered to make it according to the fashion that I showed you in the mountain. Don't go away from that. So when you lift the 7 branch high up in the air, that 7 branch design wasn't inspired from a man. It was shown to Moses on the mountaintop from God himself. We have artifacts, guys, that are of a heavenly design. And we get to enjoy it as earthly individuals because it's a shadow of things to come. What we do here in terms of our culture, and I'm going back to what Tamar experienced last week. And for those of you who are, again, new to the channel, we have what we call a cycle feast. And a cycle feast is done every 7 years of life. So when the boy or girl turns 7 years old, there's a cycle feast. Boy or girl turns 14, 21, etc., etc., etc. What Tamar went through last week, based on our culture, is she just turned 21. So that's 3 sevens. So she had a cycle feast. But it was a little bit more special than just her regular cycle feast because virgins in Israel were celebrated. And she being a 21-year-old daughter of Zion virgin, she had a grand celebration last week. And I always say a feast is not just for the individual having the feast, but it's a way to also teach all those that are around and to also solidify the culture that we all have. It does more than just the individual itself doing it. And so therefore, I am always super pumped when it comes to a feast that the individuals understand our culture and understand the big picture. Let's call this big picture. Not self, but big picture. What is my feast? My feast is to honor my God. In addition, my feast is to be the big picture, to show the world and to show my brethren that we are still alive, we're still well, and there are still some of us that's keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments. There's still some of us that love the God of Israel, love our culture. There's still some of us on earth doing what we need to do, and we shake the ground that way. That is what I believe is the big picture for a feast. When a feast becomes more a party and becomes more me, yeah, we show up. As council members, we show up. But I'll be honest with you, as the person having that, you're hurting yourself. You're robbing yourself of the spiritual experience and the journey. Feasts are spiritual. I know you do not think so, but a feast is very spiritual. If you look at any other nation, you look at the Aboriginal people, you look at natives, you look at anyone, they have a lot of feast. But they have a feast, and they tell you why they're having a feast. To appease the gods. You know, we haven't had rain last year. Our crops, our rice fields got flooded. We got to have a feast to appease the gods. So do me a favor, Jen. Go out there and find a hog for me. And the shaman gets the hog. What they do? You got to find a hog. They find a hog, and the shaman gets the hog, and the whole village sits down, and they got fig leaves, and they're doing their little ritual. But they know why they do what they do.
To appease
To appease the gods. When we or you and I have a feast, we're not appeasing the gods. We're appeasing the God. And we're seeking his mercy and his attention so that our next 7 years and 7 years and 7 years would be smoother than the past. But we're also doing it seriously to show the world that although they have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name Israel be no more in their remembrance, we have failed. Because there's a young boy on a chair dressed like Aaron. There's a young boy dressed as a prince with his head wrapped and a sword by his sides with 2 priests. There's a young female Israelite with a crown on her head and a cape. And wow, we have not succeeded, is what the message is to them. And I plead with you that never ever allow them to be successful. Never truly let the name of Israel be no more in our remembrance.
Amen.
Because it can't happen. It can't happen if we start to be secular. It can happen. What am I reading now, Tamara? Where are we going with this?
You want to skip or you want?
Oh yeah, let's go to Deuteronomy 4.
Okay.
I'll let you read that. And that'll be like our last reading, and then we can chat a little bit.
Okay, verse 5.
Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5. And this is why I've said all that I've said, and Tamara said all that she said. And your questions and your comments have said all that you've said, is that there is no other people on this earth, to your point, that the God of all gods is actually pleading and seeking.
Yeah.
It even sounds bad, but it's true.
Yeah. It's crazy business.
It's sad because, you know, if we actually came to that understanding tomorrow, we would try our best, you know, as a nation. We would really try our best to make him happy and make him proud. You know, we would really do our best to make him happy and proud because he's been through a lot. Mm-hmm. He's been through a lot. And that's why when people have looked at you and I and says, well, the 400 years is up, what's next? You know, sometimes I think in my quiet time that, you know, maybe God's just jaded. He's been through this so many times. Like, he's got to be really 100% confident.
Trust issues.
That if he, you know, 100% trust issues. That if I'm gonna make Priest Sandal rich.
I'm gonna go and bring all the groves in. Thank Baal for it. Thank Baal for his riches. Yeah.
I'm gonna make him rich. Yeah. And then I got all kinds of excuses. I got, you know,
you're off in Turks and Caicos.
I'm off at Turks and Caicos having a feast.
You can't do any
at Turks and Caicos.
Yeah.
Right? And this is it's a challenge. It's a challenge. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a challenge. I know everyone that's looking at me says, well, you know, if I get rich, trust me, Priest Sandal, I'm not gonna change. I'm not gonna change, man. I'm gonna be godly. I know everyone say that. I get you, and you mean well. You do mean well. You just don't know.
Off on a jet somewhere.
Yeah, you know, Colin is no longer here asking a million questions in the mornings.
Yeah.
Right? He's building homes all over the world. He's too busy. I don't know, you know. I'll tell you what I believe, though. I'll tell you I do believe that this year, 2024, is going to be interesting times.
In what way?
We're around the world. Around the world, I think we're going to have some interesting times. Whether that is like problems around the world. I'll leave it at that. Okay. Problems around the world. I do believe something is going to escalate. I do believe that the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, we have a job to do that may not be super clear right now, but I do believe our job will become clearer and clearer and clearer as we grow. I do believe that the God that we serve doesn't want any one of us to be begging our bread, be without shelter, and be without food and clothing. I do believe in that. I do believe that we will not always be the tail, right? I don't know when that time is. That's what I can't tell you. But it's in me to know that, like to your point, like Manasseh did all these things, and the minute he turned to say, "Okay, God of Israel, sorry," he was back in, right? So I do believe that same God who is merciful has the same mercy that he has on you and I, and it's only about timing at this point. It's about timing, and we'll see it. I pray. How about that? I pray our eyes will see when Israel will, and I mean when I say Israel, the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries and those that serve God in spirit and in truth will see the blessings with them and their families and the nation collectively, to know that this wasn't a run in vain. We didn't run this run in vain. Trust me, you're not running this run in vain. I promise you that. All right, Deuteronomy 4. Yeah.
Verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.
All right, let's go easy. And I'm going to go easy for those who are new. Right? Those of you who are brand new visiting us for the first time, whether in person or online, I need to go really slow with this one. And verse 5 says, behold, I have taught you. Let's go easy. Behold, and who is speaking? Moses is speaking. Moses is speaking to the children of Israel, not the world. Although you can go to any gift shop right now and you can get something saying that, God loves everyone, or the 10 Commandments that you can pin up on your in your car, or a sticker on your laptop. But the 10 Commandments, as they call it, was not given to the world. It was given to Moses, who was an Israelite, to give to his people. So Moses says, behold, I have taught you, not the world, statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me that you should do so in the land whither you go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations. There is a clear separation here. The nations are not you, which shall hear of these statutes. Oh, I hear that the boys in your nation get lifted up in the chair. They're dressed like Aaron, the prince, the chief priest, and horns are blown when they come out, and they're arrayed in red, white, blue, and purple, and tapestry of gold trimmings. Oh my God. Oh, I hear when you girls are 21 and you're virgins, when you come out there with the trail and the crown. Oh my God. When they hear, that's what they say. And truly, I have witnessed it myself. When people who are new get a little peek into what we do, they say, oh my God, now this is what I'm talking about. They don't stick around, but they acknowledge that, wow, this is super dope, super cool. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom. Do not let the evil engine of the world, young people, suck you in. You dumb yourself down. You think you seem cool, but you dumb yourself down. That's why Moses is saying, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear of all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. This is a family affair. For what nation? For those of you who are new, listen to this keenly. For what nation is there so great? Who hath God so nigh unto them? As the Lord our God is in all things that we call upon him for. For those of you who are new. And what nation is there so great that hath statutes, Tamar, and judgments so righteous as all this law which I set before you this day? Which nation? That's what Moses is asking. I'm asking you guys the same question. Which nation?
The Israelites.
It's the question he posed. What nation? There is no other nation that God is so nigh. This is written. This is not something that we made up. There is no other nation that God actually came down. People say, well, God is in you, God is in me, God is walking. And be careful if you see the stranger at the gas station. That could be an angel, Priest Andal. That could be an angel. Be careful you see the guy there talking to you. That could be an angel, man. The God of Israel is not running around. He is God. He sits on a throne. You can't even get Biden to run around. Biden's not going to every convenience store and traveling everywhere. And you can't get access to Biden. None of you here can get access to Biden. But everyone's got access to the great God every single minute of the day. He's here, he's there, he's in you, in me. And he is King of all kings, God of all gods. He's got legions of angels, cherubims and seraphims. He's got saints, great company. But at this one particular event in life, he says, I'm going down. I'm not delegating this. I am going down to talk to Moses from my people Israel. What nation is so nigh unto God? What nation? There is none. Well, Tamarski, we're coming on the hour of our AIJ TV special today. How did you feel last week? You had your big feast. I've seen some video clips and some pictures, and people's given me some frame. Auntie Patricia did a nice picture with a frame for you. I think she's online. I see her online. Thank you, Auntie Patricia.
Thank you.
You went home the next day. You're in the living room counting all your money that people gave to you. You're counting all your gifts, and I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there thinking, wow. Is any of the envelopes for me? Like, is there anyone that says, also give this to your dad, you know? And Tamar's got, I'm not kidding you, there's a stack of, so there's a stack of small envelopes. True story. Small envelopes like this, and then there are bigger envelopes. The small envelopes, the mom gave her heads up, those are all money. So Tamar has the small envelopes. She's very, she goes through strategically with this, right? Small envelopes here, bigger envelopes here. So she's cutting through. Oh, wow, okay, $400 there, good. Okay, $200 here, $100 bill. Oh, yeah, $100. So I'm like, wow, jeez. So I got a little box. Because the money was slipping off the table. So I got a little box and started to keep it together for her. Then she moves on to the big envelopes, right? We didn't know what's in the big envelope, but her mom knew what's in the small envelopes. Opening a card, put money in there, okay, put that aside. Another card, okay, another $400 here. Another $200 here. Tamar had thousands. I'm going to tell you guys. I'm not going to give you the exact number. Tamar had thousands of dollars, cash. Thousands of dollars. No. I'm being, guys. And I thank all of you for that. All of you, because we kind of we kind of moved away from that too. And I'm guilty of that because I actually don't walk with cash. So when I come to a feast and they say, oh, the money box is up, it's like, oh, geez, I don't walk with cash. I could tap something, right? But it was a refreshment that, I remember when the generation before you, they all used to walk away with thousands of dollars in cash. And it's something that we, including myself, I got to find a way to remember cash.
You have to start putting e-transfers.
And I told Tamar, I said to Tamar, I said, I can't, you think when you have a feast and you come to a feast, you can probably put a little $20 in something. But when she was counting, I'm like, everyone's got a 50, there's a red bill and a gold $100. I said, so if I put a 20, I can't. Because when you open the ones with 20, it's like, this is nice, it's nice. But then when she opened, there's, $300 here, 550s. It's like, oh my God. It was refreshing to see all of that. And that was not even including the gifts, correct? And a lot of those is not even packed away. So me saying all of this to you guys openly, it is a blessing our culture. And I thank all of you for coming out for my daughter Tamar and really making it special. Because I'm telling you, she was really, really happy. She said, coming into the feast, we were talking about a hall. Everyone wants a hall, a nice hall. And, so I was tippy-toeing around the conversation because she was looking forward to this day so much that a hall and stairs to come down. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm okay with it. But the reality is, I think she's going to benefit more
from having
if she is in our home court. But it was such a delicate discussion because I know she's been dreaming it up. But like I said at her feast, Tamar's reasonable if you have your data points. If you have your data points, and you say, here's what this is, here's what this is, here's what that is, here's what that is.
It's not hard.
She comes around, but you got to make sense. So her and I, I delicately went into the conversation, Elder Millie, and I said, hey, here's the data points where if you ask me where I think you should have it, and I said, is it a nation? And here's why. It's our home court. The altar's right here. I understand it's not a 3-story hall where you're coming down, but trust me, Tamar, trust me, it's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit you more than any hall out there. And she was okay. All right, let's do it. Let's done. And that was super cool because I didn't have any pushback. And then, all she said was she just wanted to make sure the peeps were good, the decorations was on point, and that and the menu, the food was food was there.
Yeah. People clap for the food.
And that was really it. And her mom, to be honest with you, I just showed up. I'm not gonna lie about that. I just showed up. Her mom did all the preparation for Tamar's feast. Her mom was a superhero driving this feast. I mean that. I just showed up. I was the guy. I just Elder Freddie and I chatted about your service. We chatted about, the things that we got to do here. But her mom, months in advance, ran up and down, ran here, ran there, negotiated with the chef, did this. I just showed up. So your mom was, and always is your number one fan. You know that. And it takes a community, guys. It really does take a community. Every single person. Let's see, yeah. Elder Sophie, yeah. Yeah, guys online, it's true. Tamar had I would say you had a great feast. Her mom was really, really a driving force in the preparation of your feast. Elder says he wasn't going to miss it for the world. The council members wasn't going to miss it for the world. Brethren who I didn't even know they knew your name said they're not going to miss it for the world. Brethren who I don't even remember, to be honest with you guys, have sent Tamar paragraphs, essays, and gifts. It was like, how did you pull this off? And what I would say to Tamar is, you got to look at this.
Do you know that Chris Rowland was here?
We call him Supersede. That's his DJ name from Shiloh Sounds. Supersede. Am I right? Don't play with me, Chris. But I'll give you the closing statements. We're wrapping up now, so I'll give you the last words, Tamar.
Well, I would definitely say thank you again to everybody that showed up for my feast, everybody's hands that went into it to just instill blessings upon me for my next cycles to come. My service was even amazing, and everybody dropped great prayers for me and just rained down blessings upon me, and everybody that brought in a little something to eat for after the service and was there for me for my breaking of bread. It was honestly surreal. I felt the blessings come through. I felt the support. There's no culture like ours. And like my dad said, these feasts are not just for ourselves, but they're statement pieces, not only to make the true and living God happy and the innumerable company of angels to rejoice, but it's also everything the God of Israel wanted for his people to follow. So the fact that we're doing it and upholding the culture, there's no honor like that. I was really happy with my feast. The next day, I was just exhausted and just needed to recover from having such an amazing feast, but it couldn't have been that special without this Israelite nation, without the instructions from the council, without the teachings from my elder Shadrach. It wouldn't have even come close at a hall and without having it at our home court. And I just pray that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was rejoicing with us and had a smile on his face that day to see all his people come together and give praises unto him and to give thanks unto him for everything that he's done, especially in my life, even letting me get to this third cycle. So it was not only an accomplishment for me, but for the culture, for this nation, and for the true and living God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Hopefully you guys enjoy our lesson today and know that the God of Israel's mercy does endure forever. So to anybody that's seeing this message, it's not too late to get in contact with the Israelite nation and start following the path of truth and to turn back unto your God and get the blessings and reap the rewards of staying true and connected to the true and living God and to really worship him as he would like his people to do. So hopefully this message got to you guys and you guys enjoyed this message. Drop some fires and some sevens in the chat. And with that, I would like to say peace.
Peace.
Here we go. Jerusalem, we're smelling the incense from the temple, waving. Jordan, from the well, check it out. Walking down the streets of Jerusalem, smelling the incense from the temple, waving at the fishermen in Jordan. Drink some water from the well that Jacob built. Walking down the streets of Jerusalem, smelling the incense from the temple, waving at the fishermen in Jordan. Drink some water from the well that Jacob built. Let me take you back when the faces were black and the feast around the corner will be roasting some gas.